Okay, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Youth Action podcast. It's been a while since we've done one, but good to get another guest in the form of Emily Grace. Yeah. Say hi.
Hello.
Have you done a podcast before?
No.
Okay, so it is dead simple. We just talk, really. But the starting point for us, from a youth action perspective, is we wanted to get a bit of information about how it's been for you volunteering, really, because it sounds like you've done like a lot so far, and still doing it. Because to set the scene a little bit, we're in the Friday Night Youth Club. Has it got a name of some sort?
We just call it Sandringham Hub.
Sandringham Hub Youth Club in Houghton Regis. And it seems to be run through Aldwyck Housing, is that right? Because I noticed like Haffy's here, and I understand this has been going quite a while. Have you been here sort of like the start of it?
2 years.
2 years, okay. And had it been the only volunteering that you'd done, or have you done like lots of other things?
This is like the only volunteering I've done, but
okay.
It's been really interesting to get to know different people and their backgrounds.
Yeah. What drew you to this particular volunteering placement?
Because it's the nearest to my house, and also the young people, I want to help them through things that maybe I've been through before. I don't know. I've got it from my mum, because she used to work in a hospital. And she's a school nurse. So.
Yeah. It's like a caring side runs in the family, maybe. Yeah. Interesting that you say like you want to help other kids that have been through your issues. You can go into that if you want, but it's not an uncommon thing that I've found with people that want to volunteer at youth clubs. They do tend to be people that have had a few issues, let's say, in their life, and that they but have got enough. They haven't been broken by it, if you get what I mean. You know, some people that are broken by it want to isolate away and not have anything to do with society, or completely rally against it and just be really violent and all that. So, like, what do you think has kept you, like, having had those issues, from spiralling out of control, or, you know?
Yes, I've understand the world a bit more and looked at it differently before how I did. And like before I came here, I was like a really naughty child, and now I'm just like I've calmed down a bit, and I've like studied more, and I'm getting on with life. I see it differently than how I used to. I just guess I've sort of got my confidence back from the things that have happened.
So you kind of rallied yourself and got back on it. You know, I sometimes see it as like, you know, sometimes you're an aeroplane and you're in a bit of a nosedive, and you manage to like level off and kind of pull up before you crashed, kind of thing, you know. But yeah, it is weird. It's like a lot of youth clubs are populated by people with similar backgrounds, I find, and the desire to maybe help other kids that you might. I mean, do you spot any other kids maybe that like you used to be in the youth clubs?
I do sometimes, but they all get on really well. It's just the fact that some of the girls won't talk to the boys. So when I did one of my sessions, I put the girls with boys who they wouldn't normally talk to, and we just did team building activities. So we did a lot of making each other communicate with each other. It was great fun.
It's funny, like you sound like you sort of forced it, but you're not really. You're just setting the scene, really, and that's a natural consequence to that. That if you kind of maybe take them out of their comfort zone a little bit, they're forced to interact. Yeah, I mean that's a good skill to have. Did you come up with that team building aspect yourself? Okay.
I was asked to do it by a member of staff, and it was set for 1 week. But then it got changed because of children in need, so I did it the week before. I panicked a bit at the beginning because I was like, oh God, I've never really spoken in front of a crowd before. But then I was like, yeah, these are children, these aren't people my age who are going to judge me. It's just a bit of fun for them.
What sort of age group are they?
From 7 to 12.
7 to 12, okay. Are they? Would you describe them as like they're quite manageable then? They're, you know.
Yeah, sometimes they can get out of hand because they're like really loud, or they won't listen, or it's just the end of term and they just want to do what they want to do and don't want to do what they've been asked to do.
I think it's cool, like you're essentially providing a service as well. I'm sure that it gives some of the parents a bit of a relief to send their kids off to the youth club as well, and I guess they keep coming back because they enjoy it. You know? And I think things like you're doing as well with like different, I guess you have different activities each week as well, or what sort of other things are you doing?
At the minute we're doing healthy eating.
Mm-hmm.
So last week they made omelettes, and the week before they made fruit salads. And then today they're going to make fruit smoothies.
Yeah.
So and then like that's in the kitchen. In here they do their AQA forms and fill out stuff like questions that they've been asked. So they can get a certificate, and then they go on like this free trip, which they don't have to pay for.
Cool. And
then out there in the main bit they did healthy eating plates, and they do all sorts. They all enjoy it.
You said AQA earlier, like people might not know what that means. What's that all about?
It's a certificate that the young people can get, so it helps them get a job. I guess say if someone who hasn't done it, they'll probably pick the person who has done the AQAs because, and it also goes for their UCAS, which is for university.
Wow, and you're starting them that early, which is good, so they can start building skills. I was interested in the omelette idea. You know, that's something that I just don't really think about. You know, crack a few eggs, heat up the pan, all that sort of thing. Is it like something that they've done for the first time for some of them?
Yeah, there's a little boy who has never like cracked an egg before, and there's a couple of girls that hadn't either. And I guess if we're just like teaching them life skills at the same time as well, because some of them don't get that, and then some of them do, and just.
It sounds like there's times, I'm sure, that you're providing a bit of a service that's not available at home. You know, the parents might be too busy, or in some cases, unfortunately, they're not interested. I think like with the cooking, I'm a bit of a cook myself, like, and it was always something that I wanted to do. And I come from a very like culinary family. My sister's like a chef, and my mum and most of my family do a lot of like showing love through food, if that makes sense. You know, it's all about getting together and interacting, but also putting on a good spread, you know, and having like nice desserts at the end. It seems to be centered around food, so I always knew that was in me. But like a lot of people don't really know how to cook, and I think sometimes people don't know how to cook because they're a bit afraid of like messing it up.
Yeah, there was a girl last week. She went to crack the egg, but it fell all over the floor. She was like, I don't want to do it anymore, I've done something wrong. And I was like, it doesn't matter, we've put tissue on the floor, we'll clean it up in a minute. We'll just get on with what you're doing. So we did it again, and she was alright with it. I guess it's the fact of, they get scared when they think they've done something wrong. Like, when they haven't done something wrong, but they think they have, they like sort of back off a bit and we're like, no, we're not doing it, we'll just stay away. But then some of them are like, we'll do it, and we'll continue doing it and repeat and repeat and repeat.
I think that's really important. Like there's, I think that side of things, like making a mistake essentially, and there are some kids that will be like, right, I'm done now, I made that horrible mistake, and maybe all the feelings of maybe, I don't know, embarrassment, maybe a bit of that, or feeling a bit of a failure, some don't really know how to deal with, and that's usually historical. There's probably, as we all know, there's stuff going on in the background family, all that sort of thing, that maybe when they make a mistake they're quite punished for it, or whatever, so that they get a bit freaked out by it. But to be able to say, okay, there's a solution to this, we just, you know, and to sort of like take some of the panic out of it and just say, almost like, well, you made a mistake, give it another go. Simple as that. You know? And I think that's really good life skill stuff. I mean, I think even when I'm cracking eggs now, there's still the, you know, and like, I don't want to be shelling it. So it's not always perfect anyway, no matter how many eggs you've cracked, I suppose. But yeah, I think, I mean, an omelette to me sounds quite simple, but actually when you think about it, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, they also put like vegetables in it. They had peppers, mushrooms, onions. There's one other one, I can't remember what the other one was.
Cheese?
Yeah, there was cheese in it.
Mushroom?
Also, yeah, mushroom. Not a lot of them actually chose that.
Okay. Quite a taste.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I like cheese and mushroom. Bit of ham if it's floating around. That's always good as well. But yeah, it's just good. I mean, it's good nutritional food as well, because it's always important to start getting that idea into some young people as well, because of the amount of junk food that's on offer, and sweet stuff and Insta food and all that that's just full of sugar and all that bad stuff. Okay, so cooking being like one of the activities, what sort of other things? You mentioned about doing things in this room that we're in at the minute. What kind of things are you doing?
Just the AQA things, as we mentioned earlier. They're just coming in and do different things. Just write. They get given questions and they have to write it down on a piece of paper. And some of the handwriting's bad, so we have to write underneath it. So
Doing a bit of educating, a bit,
sort of,
by the
yeah.
sound of it, yeah. And apart from this being a close, and that's fair enough. Like a lot of people need to go for the closest, but have you thought about this possibly as a career in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this being really good experience for that. I mean, how old are you now?
16 this year.
So have you started building your idea of what you want to do in the future into your education?
Yeah.
So how what does that look like? How are you shaping it?
Well, at the minute, I have been given a conditional offer at college to do a level 2 childcare course. I've put in my CV to I think it's another volunteering place, and they can take me in this apprenticeship in Luton as a disabled youth worker. So I help younger ones with disabilities.
Okay, again, awesome experience as well.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed that you got like your official Aldwyck jumper as well.
Yeah, we have a T-shirt as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. And does that mean like you've got a bit of a foot in the door here if they're ever looking for anybody, maybe, like for actual employment? You're looking like you haven't really thought about that. Is that not?
No, I don't know. I spoke to Happy and he said something about like when I turn 18 I can become a paid member of staff.
Fair enough.
So I was like, yeah, I might stay until I'm 18 or I don't know.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily conditional that you've got to volunteer until you turn into a paid worker, but I think as with all volunteering that you're meeting people, you're building a relationship with them sometimes, hopefully you're becoming a trusted individual that they will remember. And I always find that to be a positive thing when it comes to like looking for a job in the future, because like when I was a kid, the problem for me was I couldn't think about what I wanted to do. I was just a bit lost. At one point I wanted to be a fireman, that's about as far as I got really. But sometimes the feeling of like being a bit stuck is quite uncomfortable and a bit scary because everybody's telling you you've got to sort your job out. But if you've already like at your age, brilliant, you've practically got like it mapped out in a way. You know, you would definitely want to go into like this field, and it's actually a big field. You know, there's a huge like stuff around like group work, youth work, disabilities, community support, and you know what a great way of like building your CV at the minute. You said about going into like child development. That's probably quite a natural starting point. But have you thought about okay, what would be after that? What's next? How are you gonna? What are the steps?
Not really. I haven't thought that far apart from going to college. I mean, I'm just really focused on my GCSEs. But I have been told that I could go to the Open University because I wasn't really thinking about going uni. But they were like, you can go to the Open University, you can pop in, go in whenever you want, you don't even have to stay at university. And they said they've got some really good childcare things there.
It sounds like the doors are all open. Just kind of, when you said about like being a bit like naughty as a kid, it sounds a bit of a jump, but I'm linking it into if you could kind of tell your like younger self like the learning that you've got now, what would you be telling her?
I'd be saying don't mess around, like get on with life. Forget what other people say about you, it's their problem. Like, focus on what you want, not what they want.
Was that a bit of something that you used to think a lot about then?
I used to always be like, oh, people are talking about me, or they're always saying stuff about me, or they're laughing in the corner of the class, I think they're laughing at me, but they weren't really, they were just laughing generally at whatever they were talking about.
Okay.
It was just the fact that I was thinking in my mind one way, that they were talking about me all the time, because I used to be bullied in my middle school, and then I went to big school, like secondary school, and I was like, oh, people are going to bully me here. I'm like in year 9. All these people have come up from my school into Queensbury, and I was a bit like, yeah. But I guess now, like, since September, I've been like, who cares what people say? Like, it's my life. Forget what they say.
What changed?
I guess I just, because I've been having like a lot of help. I've been given a lot of help, and they were like, I've just taken on board what they've said. It's like, forget what they say, and if you're in a bad situation that you need an adult to tell, go and tell an adult. Don't be scared what other people are going to say. Like, if you're in a dangerous situation, then go and talk to someone. And things have happened, and then I was just like, do you know what? Yeah, I can trust people, but I have really bad trust issues. There was one person here that I trusted a lot, and then they stopped coming, but we still like kept in contact, and then eventually we just like, yeah, see you later, and we don't really talk anymore. So.
When you said you had trust issues, it didn't sound like she betrayed your trust, but
No,
why did?
I don't know. I guess I felt like she was leaving because of me, because I was talking to her too much. But when I spoke to her about it, she was like, no, it's fine. I just had to leave anyway because of whatever it was. And then like there's other people that I trust here, but then there's like others that I'm just a bit like, I can say a certain thing to you, but not as what I want to say to you.
Okay.
Because some of them, they don't mean to, but they'll go and tell other people. Like, I don't know. I just.
I mean, there's a lot in it. There's a lot in what you just said that I want to kind of unpick a little bit as well, because bullying, it just seems very common. Like a lot of the kids that I talk to, mainly like the quieter ones, I'd say, rather than what I would say is the naughtier ones, they've just been like battered down by that. And like one young lad I'm working with in particular, I think he would relate quite a lot to you about what I call living in other people's heads, where you're like constantly thinking about what other people are thinking about you. If someone, like you say, if someone laughs, you assume that it's about you.
Yeah.
I mean, does that come from the bullying, or did you have some of that stuff before all that?
Well, I moved 5 years ago from Luton, and I didn't have any of that when I lived in Luton. I was like, yeah, this school's cool, I live here, everything's right. And then when I moved, I was a bit like, I'm new, they've been here since whatever year. I started in year 6 and didn't leave until year 8, and I was constantly thinking about, yeah, people saying stuff about me or whatever. And the mates that I did make, I thought they were going behind my back and talking to me, talking about me as well. And I guess I just learnt from that to be like, it's chill, it's your problem if you're talking about me. Like, bullying is more about people saying things to you than physically touching you.
Do you think that's as a girl, or do you think that's universal?
I think that's basically for everyone, because I shared a video and showed the younger people about it, about this bullying. This man has done a really good YouTube video, and he was saying bullying is where people put your feelings down and stuff, but being punched is a physical assault, so that's when you should get upset. Maybe not punch them back, but that is being assaulted, not being bullied.
Important to make the distinction of the difference.
Yeah,
good point. Other conversations that I've had with young people have focused quite a lot more on the social media element to it as well, and how it's almost like with new media comes new ways of bullying people.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of that? Or?
Not on social media, I didn't. But I have got a couple of friends that have been bullied online, and they were like, they said stuff that they didn't mean. And then like in school, like the bullies didn't even go near them. They were just like, walk past them, give them a dirty look, and that was it. Didn't say anything to them. So I was just like, they're scared of you. In school, they're scared of you, but online, because it's there and you're the other side of the phone, they can say what they want. But yeah, and obviously with Snapchat, like the conversations disappear if you don't save them. So that's difficult for when you want to try and prove that you're being bullied online. So
that's tricky as well. I mean, I don't know if it's kind of changed, but when I was young, I had a bit of bullying, nothing too horrendous, but I just remember like 2 of these older kids used to just like find me on the playground, and I can't remember what they were saying, but they certainly just used to make me feel quite vulnerable, and they seemed to like, I felt targeted.
Yeah.
Like they'd almost, like I'd be like, the moment I was on my own or whatever, because like a couple of my mates went to the loo or went and chucked the football about or whatever, they would just like come along and I just remember feeling like confused by what they were saying. It was nothing like too dirty or anything like that, but it was just like embarrassing. I think I definitely felt vulnerable, and I felt like I couldn't say anything. Like I had no words to kind of go with what they were saying, and yeah, it kind of certainly freaked me out. But I also think like my personality, I think back then, sort of attracted those kind of people, because I was quiet, because I wasn't very confident, because I didn't have a lot of belief in myself, because I was a bit isolated as well, because like my best mate like went to another part of England between schools, and I really depended on this guy. So again, I was in your similar situation where I had to kind of make friends, and never did, because I was a quiet kid. I didn't really know how to do it really very well. So, and I think sometimes, I mean, even a teacher bullied me at one point. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's categorised throughout quite a lot of my younger life, and. I mean, I don't remember a turning point, but I remember leaving school and it stopped, really. Only because, like, I went into college and I was among other adults that didn't give a toss about all that, and all of a sudden there was no peer pressure. Like, about a lot of the focus for me was my parents weren't very like wealthy, and I always had like fairly naff stuff, like trainers and stuff, and the kids always found a way to pick up on my high tech. I don't know if that even is a brand right now, but that was like, it ain't Reebok or Nike by any stretch. Yeah, like I say, as soon as I went to college, it just the relief of like not having to be on the defensive all the time, and people were just getting on with their lives, and suddenly I wasn't like focused on at all or made to feel kind of vulnerable either. I suppose I'm saying it like because obviously you're out of it now. You know,
Yeah.
and you've got past it. I was a bit later on in life, I'd say, but it must be a relief, like not to be having to deal with all that stuff anymore.
Yeah, it is, because there was a lot of peer pressure. Like when I went out with a couple of mates, they were like, "Oh, here's a fag, have a fag," and like, obviously my mate smoked, and I was just like, "No, I don't want to." And then eventually I gave in and had like one, and then my mum found out, and then like things happened. I got into trouble, and yeah, I guess. Peer pressure is a big thing, because a lot of younger people in like year 10, year 9 are like going into drugs, and they shouldn't be, because it's just others doing it, and like...
That early, like when you say year 9 or 10, that's like 14-ish?
Yeah,
Is that
13, 14.
13, that seems really young to me.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, because some of them got like older brothers and sisters who do it, and then they're like, "Oh, my brother and sister does it, it's cool for me to do it." But it's not.
What sort of drugs are being used?
Like weed. Weed's a really big one in our school. Like a lot of kids in my year do it.
Yeah.
But I guess I just let them get on with it. They know like what will happen if they continue using it.
A bit worrying that, really. But I mean, with the choice of drug as well, I suppose it could be argued that at least it ain't like some of the heavy ones. I'm not defending it, and I certainly, my entire career background is in like drug stuff and trying to get people off drugs. I worked in jails and all that, so I kind of see the end result of all the people that have, as they say, started off on one drug and gravitated to the others. I know there's some evidence to suggest that like one leads on to another, but there's also other evidence that says, say, if you start smoking weed, then it will affect your mental health if it's like an early age as well. And I think there's an argument as well for it not being as bad as the other ones, so it's kind of okay. And have you got any sense of like why they're choosing to do it?
I guess some of them are doing it because of stress of GCSEs, and they've got things going on at home. Maybe they just want to like forget about it for like a bit. And some of them, a lot of the boys do it because I guess boys are different to girls. They don't want to talk to anyone. They just push everyone away when they want help. But some of them will talk and some of them won't. It's just, I guess maybe they haven't had like a good childhood, or whatever's happened to whatever has happened in their background like has caused them to do things. I was talking to one of my teachers, and I got really upset the other day because someone had said something. It wasn't aimed at me, it was aimed at someone else. But because I've had that experience before, it just in your brain, it will always pop back up. Like whatever someone said, you'll just have that feeling back in your head because of what has happened in your past.
Do you mean like sometimes in life things trigger you, like because they're related to something from the past? Yeah. How did the teachers manage that?
I just went to spoke to the teacher I normally go and speak to, and then I was alright after that, and I went home. I was alright.
So something had upset you that someone else had experienced, you mean?
No, this person was saying something that wasn't really nice to someone else, but it affected me because I went back to the moment when it happened to me.
Ah, okay, I see.
But because I started getting all angry and shouty, I was shouting at that person who was being nasty. I was like, you shouldn't do that because of like, other people have experienced stuff. And like, I know when some of the teachers would be like, people bully because they're being bullied at home or something.
Yeah.
And I can see where the teachers get that from because obviously they've seen children and things have happened that they've seen.
Do you think there's any truth in that?
I think there is some truth in it, but some people just do it for fun because they think that they're cool and they just want friends.
That bullying generates more friends?
That's what they think because they're picking on someone that is vulnerable and doesn't have as much as that person does, or because that person is jealous of the other one.
Have you heard of there's like an analogy of crabs in a bucket? You heard that?
No.
So if you stick a load of crabs in the bucket, all of the crabs try to get on top of each other to kind of not necessarily get out, but just to be above everybody else. And I think of that when I think of bullying, that even though they're not having a fun time at the minute, by pushing people down, it makes them feel sort of higher up, if you like. It gives them a bit of an ego boost or whatever. But I also think you're right that there is some truth in the bullying aspect of like stuff going on at home. I'm convinced that the guy that targeted me, now I got to know his family a little bit later on in life, that he was being bullied at home as well by his dad in particular. So I think that does cascade down because it's probably a very vulnerable feeling, and I also think there's a bit of a psychology to it about like getting into the head of what it's like to bully as well. You know, sometimes I get a bit mixed up in that. And actually I've got a bit of an experience with that because having been bullied, I hit a certain point when I was about maybe 14 where I hit a growth spurt. Like I hit puberty dead early and I was just like a big kid, big airy deep voiced kid kind of thing. And it went to my head a little bit because my chest puffed out and all that. And when, like, I remember one like older kid had a go at me and I stood up to him. But also the slightest little argument that I'd have with my mates, I'd be like, come on then. And it just, the power feeling, like, totally went to my head. So I got a real like idea about what it's like to, I was essentially doing a minor amount of bullying with other people because I'd come from that place of being so vulnerable, and being able to kind of put that on someone else changed that feeling a little bit. You know, it's mad how it works. I'm sure it does like work from a psychology point of view of that. But yeah, I mean, getting back to your stuff, it's you sound like a bit of an observer of life as well, that you've experienced some of these difficult things and you sound quite able to spot it when it's happening as well.
But sometimes I can't like say my emotions or act on my emotions, but I can tell when other people are upset and angry, and I can like read other people's facial emotions, but I can't do that to myself. I don't know why, but
that will serve you in life, I would say. It probably, have you come across that in the youth club at all, where someone's been a bit like...
Yeah, especially some of the younger ones. Some of them do come to you and talk to you, but some of them just sit there and be like, I don't want to do nothing, I'm just that sort of person.
Again, that's going to be useful for you in your career in the future. But I suppose there's absolutely going to be situations where some of the kids have come home from school, and you mentioned about like problems at home. I feel like that's on the rise. I think that there are more kids now than there've ever been that have got stuff going on at home. Like,
yeah, I only think that because people are having babies younger. Like, I know someone who's 16 and they've just had a baby. And then there's like 17-year-olds who have kids, and it's just like you're younger, and then you're breaking up with your boyfriend because you're pregnant with a baby, and then you've got to get with someone else, and they say, oh, they'll look after the kid, they'll be the dad to it, but the actual dad wants to be part of their life and everything, and all these arguments happen, and they sort of bully each other in a way. Like the person that I know who's just had a kid, she broke up with her boyfriend before she had the kid because he was being a bit nasty to her, saying, oh, you started it, you're the one who's pregnant. But she was like, it's not just my fault because you were there as well at the same time. And then there was a bit of like thrown around because he was like, oh, I want to be part of the kid's life, and she was like, no, I don't want you in the kid's life because of this and that. And
so you've got the kid kind of growing up in all that conflict and that stress almost from the start, by the sound of it as well. I suppose like you know you're going to get kids that are going to be coming to the youth club having just come out of like a house that might have been arguing, things like that as well. I'm only going from a statistical point of view that the likelihood is probably that you're going to get that, or you already have that. I don't know. I wonder about the area as well. I mean, this is known as like one of those areas where it's got problems, and it's reflected in like the crime statistics, if you like, and a lot of the youth workers sort of, you know, they come into contact with some young people that are, you know, off the rails a little bit, and I don't ever see like a violent kid. I see a kid that's got problems and they don't know what to do with all the feelings, and they don't know how to deal with it, and there's no surprise in that because they're young. They're not equipped. I didn't learn how to deal with stuff until I was like in my 30s at best, you know, and I still haven't cracked it yet. But if I was to think about like some of the things that have stressed me out as an adult, that a lot of kids are actually just getting now, a lot of the teenagers are having that, like you say about being parents, for crying out loud. Oh my God. And you don't know enough, I think.
I don't think the schools do a lot of life skills lessons either.
Yeah.
Like, I heard that whatever the government said something about they should do life skills as one of their core subjects, and it should be, this is a core subject, we have to do it, you're going to do tests and this sort of thing. But they should be doing it from a younger age, like year 5. I know it's young, but at least they're learning, because their brain is just like developing and getting knowledge. So the more they learn, the more they're going to remember things. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that lesson when this happened and we talked about that.
If you were to design a life skills education programme, what do you think it should include?
It depends on what year. Like, if it was like year 5, probably just like the basics, like about puberty and when they're growing up and stuff. And then by the time like they get to year 9, about like sex education and more in depth with things. Because I know of like a lot of year 9s are like, yeah, my friend's done it, so I'm going to go off and do it, and they did it without this, and I'm going to do it without this. So it's a bit like, yeah, okay. That's what I hear around school. When I walk around school, I just hear it, and I'm just like, you shouldn't be talking about this around school. Walking around school, there's teachers that can listen.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just one of those things now, isn't it? They all think it's cool, so they're all going to do it.
I also wonder if it's like the bad advice kind of thing, like this person tries a thing and there didn't seem to be any terrible consequences, so that must be the right thing to do, and like all this bad advice is perpetuating around the social groups as well. It's a bit alarming. Okay, so you'd cover sex education from like a young age by the sound of it, and relationship education probably at the same time.
Healthy and non-healthy relationships, because I know some of the younger ones who are like, oh, I have a boyfriend or I have a girlfriend. It's like, okay, you have that, but you're young, live your life. You don't need them. But some of them are like, oh, I had an argument with him, I don't want to talk to him anymore. And then like a week later, they'll come back and be like, do you know what, we're back together. It's like, yeah, that's not really showing how it should go, but...
And for the listeners, the kids have just turned up at the youth club, so hopefully it won't be too distracting, but we'll carry on regardless. So okay, relationships, sex education, what else would you include in life skills? So look maybe a little bit older, so what would you say like 13, 14-year-olds need to know about?
Cooking, cleaning, money, like financial issues, like putting their mortgage down for the house or something, if they want to get a house or getting a car, because we're only just learning about it now, and I'm like leaving in 3 months, and I'm just like, I'm not really understanding this on top of my GCSEs as well. It's like I should have learned it like last year or year 9.
What has been your concept of money up until that point then? What did you...
I just got it, spent it.
I think of it in the prism of like mobile phones.
Yeah.
And just about every single kid that I went to a youth club with had a smash phone. It suddenly seemed to be a disposable item, something that wasn't really that important. But I just like spent 400, 500 quid on mine. It's a horrendous amount of money for a phone. But I don't think that like young people necessarily, I don't know, appreciate's not the right word, but presumably, Mum, I really want a phone for Christmas, and they get a phone, but they probably haven't thought or even got an idea about how much that costs. And then you've got the old, oh, I smashed it, so they get another one.
A lot of the younger ones here have phones, and I'm just like, I never had a phone at that age. I only got one when I went to year 9, and I was 13 before I even got a phone. It's like, you're under the age of 10, some of you, and you have a phone.
Whoa, that seems young.
And it's like, it's only because they ask for it and they beg for it, and their parents are just give in the end and be like, yeah, here you go, you've got a phone, just go away, leave me alone.
Have this thing that gives you every bit of knowledge that human society has come up with. That's a scary thing as well, like what they can view.
Some of them have got like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. I'm just like, you're not 13 yet, just calm down.
So what's the right age to get a mobile then?
I think the right age is when they go into secondary schools. So, I don't know, around year 8, year 9, because they're young, and especially with the girls, it can happen to boys as well, I do know that, but they're more vulnerable because they're girls, and there's a lot of people out there who will act their age and pretend they're their age and go and ask them to meet them, and they'll do that because they don't know anything. So I think they do need to be taught a lot of things like that.
It's tricky. My best mate's got a young son, I think 2 years old, and even he's starting to think about that. And it's almost like, I don't know if other parents feel the same, but this concern that on the one side you don't want to be that parent that deprives your child of things that everybody else has got, balanced with I don't want to give them things too early because it might corrupt them or, make them come into contact with things that they probably shouldn't. I haven't got kids myself, but I wouldn't want that, because I talked to him about it and I genuinely asked, what are your thoughts on, because I've got no clue, what's the right time, but presumably from what you were saying, that some parents are not really thinking that and just saying, here you go, have a phone, 10 years old.
Yeah, and a lot of them know what they're doing, because obviously they're using more computers and tablets in school, so it's like they all know what they're doing. They want to play more games on they want to be on something and go to school the next day and be like, yeah, I was on this the other night and I was having loads of fun, but they shouldn't be.
Is there an age limit on things like YouTube?
There should be.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know if
isn't.
Oh, okay, wow, okay. They can just go on.
There's a lot of things that Year 11 boys look at, and some of the young ones are going to start looking at it soon because they've got brothers and sisters, and it's just like, yeah, I'm going to look at that. They're looking at it, so it's cool, but it's not. And they don't understand half the stuff that's on there either, and there's a lot of things that they shouldn't be looking at, like that situation with Jake Paul.
Remind me?
The one who went to, I think it was Japan, went in the suicidal forest. And he was laughing over YouTube, and then he was apologising. I wasn't meant to do that or anything, but he was, because he went over there. And the younger ones are going to get thoughts like that and be like, yeah, I can go do that. I'm going to just go in a forest and lay there and do something stupid. But that's just what they get in their heads.
So, what's the solution to that? So you've got young people that are looking at things online that they probably shouldn't have, and maybe even treating some people as role models or giving them the answers to things. Then how are we supposed to get around that then?
I think that they should be allowed a certain amount of time on the electronics, but with an adult around until they're above the age of 13. because some of them will go and stuff and just walk around the house, and I don't mind it. Like some of these like go home and have phone calls with each other because they're mates. They go to school with each other. I see that's fine, but I think the parents should just have the phone, and if they want to call their friends, then they do it on their parents' phone, not have their own phone and do it themselves.
So there's a kind of mix between limiting and
time.
also supervising,
Yeah.
I guess, by the sound of it as well. Do you think that will go down too well with young people?
Probably not, but if we talk to them and they think about it, the way that we see it is they are getting time on it, but there is someone there just in case something does happen. Because I know a lot of people are like, getting hacked on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat now, because people can see other people's messages, and there's all these silly apps out there that can do whatever now. So yeah.
There's a lot to consider, isn't there? And that you're, as a youth worker, really, future youth worker as well, you're going to be right in the middle of all this as well. So it sounds like you're already really thinking about it. And I suppose that I sometimes feel that the job of a youth worker is to try and make up the failures, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like if the argument that there's a parent that's giving their kid a mobile phone at 10 years old, I'm sure they have their reasons, but it might also realistically be called a failure. You're not doing it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think youth workers and the interactions that they have with some young people as well is about trying to change that. I've seen it in like Sandy Youth Club. Like some of the kids come in and their behaviour is just not on, and then they'll get challenged by the youth worker. And I've seen it done really well. I've seen challenges done really well and explained about why it's not appropriate. And I think that's an important thing as well, because there's a difference between telling someone off to make them stop doing a thing and telling somebody off, but also explaining why that might. I think that's the important bit that sometimes gets missed.
Yeah.
Do you think? Have you seen that?
Yeah. I don't know really. There's a lot of stuff that goes around that they shouldn't be doing. But they think it's alright to do because everyone else is doing it. But there's things that they can do on phones that maybe they don't know is illegal or legal. But yeah, some of them, I don't know, when they come here, that they may bring their phones, but they like to put them in their back pockets or give them to us.
Don't really seem interested in them at the moment. As I'm looking out the window, I'm seeing a lot of kids just playing, and that's great, rather than just hiding on the phone. What sort of activities are they doing today? Have you got planned?
This is the icebreaker, and they're playing ladders. So they get in pairs, and they have to sit opposite each other. And one side is team 1, the other side is team 2, and they all get given a number. Whichever number gets called, they run up through the middle, either way, it doesn't matter. And then they run round the people and back up to their seats. And like whoever gets there first, that side wins, sort of thing. And they do that a couple of times. That was one of the team building activities we had, because they all had to support each other in something they were doing and working as a team. There you go.
See, they think they're playing, but they're actually getting little lessons. That's the best kind of activities, I think.
Yeah, one of them came back to me the week after we'd done it, and they were like, "We played this at school the other day. We did it in PE." I was like, "That's really good. Like, I'm glad you've taken that back to school and like doing something at school that you've enjoyed here." But yeah, I think making learning fun is more important than just sitting in a classroom for an hour saying, "Write this down, write that down." They're not going to learn anything. Like, if they make it fun and interesting, and put little games into it, little breaks into it, then yeah, they'll learn a bit more. Not just sit there and be like, "Oh, I'm bored with this," and then just sit and talk to my friends.
If it's not interesting enough, you'll lose them, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you've got to put effort into kind of bringing them back again. But why not get it right the first time? That's great learning for you, isn't it? I love this idea of you building all your experience and your knowledge and how to interact with kids. I mean, you're going to have a heck of a head start, I think, when it comes to you getting a job. If there are any jobs out there, I'd like to think that youth work continues anyway. But I mean, I'm just off of the back of looking at how councils fund activities in the community, and that the money is going to slowly dry up, and how they're going to, change that, and how they're going to adapt to that as well. I'm quite conscious of that. But yeah, I think it's admirable, the work that you're going into, and it's one that I've found, actually. Like, I never set out to be any kind of youth worker. I'm loosely a youth worker. But what I found was there are two types of kids out there that need a lot of help. Right? The ones, like, think of it as a scale. Like, the ones in the middle, they're probably going to do okay, right? The ones on the massively outer ends, I see as like your anxious, depressed, socially awkward kind of kids on one side, and then on the other side you've got your restless, ADHD, sort of unable to focus. And these are the kids that I think that we need to be focusing on. And it's not to ignore the middle ones.
It's just, I guess, the ones that you're talking about, the outside ones, they do get pushed away. Because the teachers in the school, they don't understand mental health. Like, maybe they have it, but they don't understand it in younger children. So I guess, we had this discussion in school when I had one of our life skills lessons. We had a debate about getting teachers all over the country, all over the world, to have lessons and training with mental health children, because they just get pushed aside, or they just get kicked out of classes because they're doing something wrong but they don't mean to.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly mental health is something that comes up quite often. I did a project at Sandy Youth Club that was that. Do you need to wrap it up?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Mate, we just looked at our time. It's amazing how quick it goes, isn't it? It's 45 minutes in. What happened? That's what I love about a podcast anyway. But yeah, like the mental health thing did come up, and I'm starting to think about like what I might want to do as a job next as well, and I'm really interested in mentoring. And looking at the sort of two ends of the scale, I've got the idea for that because of the work that I've been doing. The kids that needed a little bit of extra help, like there's people like yourself who go, I want to do volunteering, we give you the contact details and off you go. Brilliant. There are some kids out there that are so like nervous or isolated or don't have a lot of self-belief that they just need a bit of support, and I've done a slight bit of mentoring in helping them out, getting to them their first volunteering placements, and for me that's been like the work that I've been most proud of in the 3 years that this project's been going on. And I got to thinking that I'd like to do something a bit more proper mentoring in the future. Like, I've got a reasonable amount of life experience, I'd like to think. I was also like, I had my damage as a kid, and I've kind of feel like I've recovered pretty well from it, and I'd like to be able to convey some of that. And so, I mean, what do you? Because I'd like to generate a bit of funding for it, but I'd like to get your thoughts on what you think mentoring might look like, or what it needs to include, or.
I think mentoring will help younger children with experiences and new things that are going on. I don't know, it will provide a lot of help for them, because some of them just want someone there to talk to, to trust, like someone that's not going to go off and say something to someone else. There's a lot of that goes on in my school, but
mentoring goes on in your school?
Yeah.
Like, in what way?
I don't know, like the Year 11's getting a lot of mentors, because a lot of us don't study, we just like, go out at the weekends or events. I guess you go with them for form time, so you don't have to go to form, but you just sit and talk and do a bit of revision, do what you need to do, sort of thing.
I was thinking a bit more like, I think that's cool that they do it in school, but I was thinking a bit more like community-based stuff, like say you had a super nervous kid that wanted to do volunteering, then you just like go along with them. If you've got a kid who wants to learn how to do public speaking, then you kind of mentor them on that. You work with them, look on the internet, practice things, that sort of thing. I was thinking of like skill development stuff as well. Gosh, it's very loud, isn't it?
They are very loud.
We might need to wrap up soon. But I'd like to come back to the fact that like you've done over 100 hours of volunteering now at this particular youth club.
Yeah, just here. I love it here. We're all like a family. Like they're all coming to the window, just waving at us like, when are you going to come out? But no, we are like a family. We all argue sometimes. Like it's like a second home. Like you come here, you just chat and talk to any of them. But yeah.
What would you be saying to other young people that are thinking about volunteering but just haven't quite done it yet? What have you gained from it? What's your experience of volunteering? How has it helped you?
I would say go along. You may be nervous, maybe not talk. I didn't talk for like the first 2 months. I was just like really quiet. I was someone just sat in the back like, yeah, you do what you're doing. I'm just gonna sit here. But then I got to know people. I did start talking to them because I didn't want to go up to people and be like, yeah, you're right. I didn't want to seem the overconfident person. But in the end, like they eventually like came to me and like they used to talk to me, and I was just like, hi, and that was it. And now we're all just like having a little laugh, and when like we come in, like shout each other's names just like as a joke, and you do feel at home. You feel relaxed, all the stress. You just leave it at the door when you come in. So.
How long have you been coming in? 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
What do you think you've developed most in that 2 years?
Getting myself back on my feet when I'm in a really down position, and also having a lot of confidence. Yeah.
Good stuff. Very good stuff. Seems like a good place to end. I think we'll probably wrap up now if that's all right. Okay, cool. Okay, so thank you very much, and thanks for listening, everyone.